Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is apparently close to finalizing a rule that would allow U.S. President Trump's team to move to dismiss the articles of impeachment in the Senate quickly after some new evidence has apparently been presented. To talk more about it is our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari. Lisa, what would some of this new evidence actually look like?
You know, this is the legal dream team's work, I assume, that President Trump announced over the weekend that he has Ken Starr and Alan Dershowitz. You know, in our time, these two have been, the biggest, best, most celebrity type attorneys out there. And of course, Donald Trump's going to go after the best. That's what he does best, is to recruit and to find and hire the best of the best. So now they've put out certain buzzwords that would consider the articles to be thrown out. These two individuals, particularly Alan Dershowitz, whose work I follow and have followed for years because I just find him to be very even-keeled and particularly intelligent in understanding the Constitution, find that this impeachment is unconstitutional. So anything that they throw out right now in terms of evidence is to say, well, this is just, it's going to set a precedent in our country should this go forward, and should we impeach a president on very shaky grounds. Their main issue is that this is a partisan impeachment, meaning it's just color war at the end of the day. So we'll see how quickly we can get rid of this. And I mean, it's not soon enough, because for people who actually want to follow the news, this has really been in the way and really distracting of what's important.
Some influential Iranian artists and TV personalities have publicly broken with Tehran after the government denied for a number of days that it shot down that Ukrainian passenger jet on January 8th, killing 176, including 57 Canadians.
Yeah, this is a very important story. I mean, it's very difficult for people living in Iran to go against the regime. I mean, there are such serious repercussions to that, and anywhere from arrest to being hanged to being, having to escape the country, not being able to work, not being able to post on social media, having your family members arrested, having to pay heavy fines, and the list goes on. In this case, we have already heard of a very prominent chess player, the only Olympic winner, a female taekwondo artist who has fled the country to Germany, and one of my favorite actresses who has almost 6 million followers on Instagram, took to Instagram to say, we're all prisoners basically of this regime. Another anchor came on air and said, I've been lying to you for 13 years, because of course when you work in journalism in that country, you are working to protect and to defend the regime and its mouthpieces. So this is a big shift in what we've seen for 40 years, which has been disenchantment with the regime, and we've seen scattered protests here and there. But to have these very influential individuals come out, I think it sets a tone, and it shows unity, and it shows that the people can actually unite. And when they do, what will it mean for this regime? And I've always said the Achilles heel of this regime is not sanctions, and it's not the United States, and it's not the Europeans or any government body. It's the people back at home who have the potential to go out there and to create a revolution. And we know that the only thing that this regime wants is to stay in power, to spread its influence and stay in power. So if that becomes jeopardized, that becomes a serious issue for this regime.
And you have to feel as well for the people who are speaking out that their lives may be at risk too. That's why many are fleeing, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you open up your mouth, if you say those things about the regime, you can't stay there. You're going to be arrested. Your family members will be arrested. I mean, there are repercussions for Iranians who live in the United States and all over Europe who speak out about the regime. Their family members back at home are arrested. The phone lines are tapped. Their computers are confiscated. I've covered dozens of these stories where there's backlash for people, their loved ones back at home, even when they're able to flee the country. So, I mean, this regime has they muzzle the message, and they have done so for 4 decades. So it's going to be very difficult. And like you said, a very high price to pay for those who do want to speak out.
A new report from the Jerusalem Post says Iran's nuclear weapons, Lisa, go back to 2002. Germany, France, and the UK have put Iran on notice over various nuclear deal breaches.
Yeah, we've known, and there have been numerous reports by different accountability bodies that the Iranian regime was going against the nuclear deal and they were continuing with their nuclear program. We already know that. Now, add to that that since the US withdrew from that nuclear deal in May of 2018 and subsequently did not enter into a new deal with the Iranians, they have uh, announced that they will enrich more uranium, that they will continue with they've become so emboldened in getting this message out as propaganda. And more recently than ever, after the killing of Qasem Soleimani in recent weeks, they've come to say, we are going to double and triple our uranium enrichment. We are going to put our weapons program on fast forward. I mean, this is what they believe that will get the world's attention. This is what they believe are their ability to brag and to flex their muscles is through their nuclear program, which is what the world was waiting to see. Now, if they're trying to get the Europeans to sign on to another deal, this does not look good. This is not a situation where the Europeans can look past all these statements and look past this nuclear program that's continuing to say, we want to enter into a deal with you just to have a trade partner in Iran. They put them on notice. They continue this kind of like chicken and egg kind of thing and saying, look, we beg you to sign on to the deal, but at the same time, we're mad at you if you don't. And it's made a very awkward situation for the Europeans. They won't easily be able to sign on with the United States, obviously, and the UK, having a very stern message about how they should not continue to have relations with the Iranian regime.
There were some major clashes in Lebanon over the weekend, leaving 400 people wounded. Lisa, Lebanese authorities are bracing for more violence after a night of protests in Beirut. The clashes took place amid a worsening financial crisis and an ongoing impasse over the formation of a new government.
Yes, not too many reports on Lebanon. I think people are looking the other way. We had a long period of time where obviously the reports were more about Iran, Iraq, Qasem Soleimani, Syria even, but not about Lebanon and the ongoing protests there. Very shaky situation. They don't want the current government, but they also have obviously influences from Lebanon, from Hezbollah rather in Lebanon. Hezbollah being the terrorist organization that has been funded by the Iranian regime since its inception. So for almost 4 decades, the Iranians have relied on proxy groups such as Hezbollah, their first one, to do their dirty work in the Middle East, to destabilize the Middle East, to be this cancerous terrorist element in the Middle East. And since then, Hezbollah has been this cancerous element in Lebanon and in creating not just Hezbollah, but other splinter groups and terrorist organizations that have been on the ground creating these insurgencies and creating the instability there. What will be the future of the Middle East? It's a very, very sensitive issue because you see these ingredients in so many of the countries of the Middle East. You have a population that's ready to raise up against its government, the population outgrowing these governments, whether it be a theocracy, whether it be a monarchy, whether it be a prime minister that's been in office too long. They want better, they want more, but they don't have the ability to move forward. What do they want? How can they organize? In the case of Lebanon, they do have elections. They have a rather modern leader, but here you see them saying, we want these terrorist elements out. We want better. We want to be ourselves again. Speak to anybody who's been to the Middle East in the 70s. They'll talk about Beirut as the Paris of the Middle East. Not something I lived through, but something I have heard much about, seen pictures and videos from. So I think many of the nationalists there want to go back to that and rid themselves of this terrorist influence.
China is confirming 139 new cases of pneumonia over the weekend. The virus is apparently spreading to many of the major cities. The Asian nation is increasing measures to contain the outbreak.
Yeah, this was very interesting. This was a mysterious virus at first. I mean, it still is to some extent because they had not seen anything like it before. They said that it's similar to pneumonia, but they have had deaths, and because of that, they're looking very, very closely at what this is, how it's spreading. They're looking at the airport and how they're looking at individuals coming in to prevent the further spreading of this virus. There are lists online about symptoms that people could watch out for. We have not heard of this spreading anywhere beyond that area, but obviously it's of concern to, since the advent of an airplane, people should worry about viruses everywhere, spreading anywhere and very easily spreading. So I think that that's why they are taking precautions in airports in China, and especially in those areas where they know there are people that have had this virus.
Mexican authorities have closed a border entry point in southern Mexico recently after thousands of Central American immigrants tried to push their way across a bridge between Mexico and Guatemala. Authorities say there were around 2,500 migrants on the bridge.
Yes, this is the latest migrant caravan. Most of those individuals originating from the country of Honduras and Mexico very early on saying we are going to stop them before they get close to the US border. This signals to me that there have been some more collaborating between the United States and Mexico on border security. If they're working together, that's a very positive sign, and we can, obviously work together to create safer environments and safer borders and safer border towns on both sides of the border, both for Mexico and the United States. As you know, there have been a very high number of crimes and kidnappings and murders on the border on the Mexican side. And because of that, I think it behooves Mexico to obviously take a very serious stance with regards to these caravans, with regards to immigration, with regards to illegal immigration, etc. So now this particular caravan, this latest one, is stuck, for lack of a better word, by Guatemala. And what will happen to them, who knows? But again, we have to understand what conditions these people leave in order to find better life on the road. And when they pack up, there's so much uncertainty in the life that they will find and how far they will get. Will they get to Guatemala? Will they get to Mexico? Will they get to the United States? And obviously that being the end goal for most, if not all, of these migrants.
Lisa, the city of San Antonio, Texas is spending $300,000 plus to keep Chick-fil-A out of their airport?
Yes, and that price tag, that hefty price tag that the city of San Antonio has paid is to legal fees in order to keep this very popular franchise, Chick-fil-A, out of its airport because they disagree with the stance of the franchise against LGBTQ minorities. And because of that, they don't want them to have a place in their airport. As you know, Chick-fil-A, the franchise, is owned by a religious family. They close on Sundays. Very popular. I don't know if you guys have Chick-fil-A out in Canada. I'm
One in
not sure.
Toronto, that's it.
But oh, okay, but in the States, it's very popular. The lines are always out the door, and the drive-throughs are sometimes for miles in traffic. But it's a very popular franchise. But obviously, there is a movement against the religious beliefs of the owners of that franchise. So the city of San Antonio is standing firm and saying, "We don't want you here. We don't believe in your stance." And I don't know, how can you juxtapose a chicken sandwich with political and religious views? We've come to that place.
And I know the people that have had it, they said it's amazing chicken. It's pretty amazing. Now, here's a kind of a cool story. The next U.S. Navy aircraft will be named after an African-American Pearl Harbor hero, Dorie Miller. The official announcement will be made on Martin Luther King's birthday.
Yes, exactly right. I was just about to say how apropos that the announcement is being made on Martin Luther King Day, and how wonderful to commemorate these individuals in history, regardless of their race, religion, creed, etc. People who've been a part and on the right side of history, and to honor them, their legacy, their families, and for all the wonderful work and all the contributions that they made to this country. I think with everything going on, and you have, celebrities and athletes and, people who shouldn't be opining about, current events and, national security and all other stories, take to their social media pages and say such, awful things about this country and about our leaders. And, you always are fearful that that will leave a stain. This president will be out of office, but this pop culture will remain, and it'll become part of our culture. And when you hear about stories like this, it's heartwarming to say that we should take a moment to stop, to teach our children, to teach in schools, to teach, these are the icons and these are the quote unquote influencers that we should be following and honoring, frankly, and how wonderful to be doing that on Martin Luther King's birthday.
Our foreign affairs expert, Lisa Daftari, joining me once again from Los Angeles, California. Thanks so much, Lisa.
My pleasure.